The sound of plasma rounds echoing through the conference hall drowned out the screams. Dr. Raj Bennett pressed himself against the marble pillar. His field medical kit clutched to his chest as debris rained down from the vaulted ceiling. The Peace Summit on Centauri 9 had just become a battlefield. Smoke filled the air acrid and thick as the doctor peered around the column. The Vazari delegation's bench lay in ruins, bodies scattered like broken dolls. The famous strength protocol of the Vazari Empire had always dictated that the weak be abandoned, that only the strong deserved survival. Now, ironically, their strength meant nothing against surprise and superior firepower. Raj spotted movement among the wreckage. A figure in deep purple robes, the ceremonial colors of Vazari royalty, was attempting to crawl toward an exit. Blood pooled beneath her dark crimson against the pale marble floor. Princess Thalara. Every instinct told him to find his own way out. The Vazari had been humanity's enemies for decades, their empire built on conquest and the subjugation of the weak. The very reason he was here was to protect human delegates from potential Vazari treachery. Yet as he watched her struggle, something deeper stirred within him. He had taken an oath once: first do no harm, help the sick and wounded regardless of who they were. The next wave of explosions came closer. Raj made his decision. Dashing across the open space, he reached Thalara as she collapsed. Up close, he could see the extent of her injuries. A deep gash across her abdomen, burns on her arms, and what looked like a severe concussion from the way her eyes struggled to focus. "Easy," he whispered, kneeling beside her. "I'm here to help." Thalara's eyes widened in surprise and suspicion. In the Vazari language, she spat something that roughly translated to human scum. But her voice was weak, and she couldn't push him away. "Your people would have left you by now," Raj said, applying pressure bandages to her wounds. "The strength protocol, right? The weak don't deserve." "I know what my people believe," she interrupted in accented English, her voice sharp despite its weakness. "Why do you help an enemy?" Before Raj could answer, another explosion rocked the building. The ceiling began to crack ominously. He scooped Thalara into his arms, ignoring her weak protests. "Because I'm not your people," he said, simply carrying her toward the emergency exit. The journey to safety proved more treacherous than expected. The attackers had blocked most exits, forcing Raj to take a circuitous route through the building's service corridors. Thalara drifted in and out of consciousness. As they moved, her weight a constant reminder of the choice he'd made. When they finally emerged into the crimson twilight of Centauri 9, Raj realized their troubles had only begun. The landing pads where their shuttles had been stationed were nothing but smoking craters. In the distance, he could see figures moving. The attackers were still actively hunting survivors. "The emergency beacon," Thalara murmured, her hand reaching toward a device on her belt. "If I activate it, my people will come and abandon you the moment they see you can't walk," Raj pointed out grimly. "The strength protocol, remember." She fell silent, the reality of her situation sinking in. For a race that prided itself on strength above all else, dependency was worse than death. Raj checked his communicator. The electromagnetic interference from whatever weapons had hit the complex was scrambling all signals. They were on their own. "There's a research station about 50 kilometers north," he said, consulting his map. "If we can reach it." Thalara asked, her violet eyes studying him intently. "Unless you'd prefer, I drop you here and continue alone." For the first time since he'd found her, Thalara almost smiled. "You humans are strange creatures. Your weakness makes you unpredictable. Our compassion, you mean? Same thing from a Vazari perspective." As night fell on Centauri 9, Raj fashioned a makeshift stretcher from debris and began the long journey north. The planet's 3 moons cast eerie shadows through the purple-leafed trees that dominated this region. Everything about Centauri 9 seemed alien and hostile. The air itself had a metallic taste, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. They made slow progress. Every hour or so, Raj had to stop to redress Thalara's wounds. The medical supplies in his kit were dwindling, and her condition remained precarious. During one such stop as Raj worked by the light of his portable scanner, Thalara spoke quietly. "You should have left me." "Probably." "Then why didn't you?" Raj considered the question as he sealed a fresh bandage with biogel. "When I was a child, my village was attacked by raiders. Humans, not Vazari. My parents were killed and I was left for dead. A Vazari patrol found me." Thalara's eyes sharpened with interest. "Their commander ordered them to leave me. Said that weak human children weren't worth their time. But one soldier, a young lieutenant, defied orders. He carried me to safety, got me medical attention. He was executed for showing weakness when they returned to base." The princess was quiet for a long moment. "I don't remember hearing of such an incident." "It was a long time ago. Before your time, I think." "What was his name, the soldier who saved you?" "Kaleth, Lieutenant Kaleth Vrax." Thalara's breath caught. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "That was my cousin. My father had him executed as an example to others." They stared at each other in the green-tinged moonlight, the weight of history and irony hanging between them. "So you see," Raj continued, securing his pack, "sometimes helping the weak is exactly what makes someone strong." The second day brought new challenges. The terrain grew more treacherous as they entered what the locals called the Singing Hills, a region where underground gas pockets created haunting melodies when the wind passed through naturally formed caverns. The sound was beautiful, but disorienting. And more than once, Raj found himself off course. Thalara had stabilized somewhat, though she was still too weak to walk. She had taken to pointing out dangers he might miss: poisonous plants that looked deceptively similar to Earth vegetation areas where the ground might give way to reveal deep chasms, and weather patterns unique to Centauri 9. "You are observant for someone not familiar with this world," she said, catching herself before using what was undoubtedly a Vazari insult. "Medical training," Raj replied, hefting the stretcher over a fallen log. "You learn to notice everything. The smallest detail can mean the difference between life and death." They were making better time now, and Raj estimated they were about halfway to the research station. His optimism was short-lived. On the third morning, they woke to the sound of engines in the distance. "They've found us," Thalara said, struggling to sit up. Raj peered through the purple foliage and counted at least 3 airships moving in a search pattern. The design was distinctly Vazari, sleek, predatory, built for war. "Your people?" he asked hopefully. Thalara shook her head grimly. "Those ships belong to my brother's personal fleet. I thought your brother would be leading the search to find you." "He is. He just wasn't planning to find me alive." The revelation hit Raj like a physical blow. "Your own brother orchestrated the attack." "Prince Vizoth has always believed he would make a better ruler than I. My father chose me as his heir because I am the elder, but Vizoth never accepted this." Her jaw tightened with pain and anger. "He must have arranged the attack, knowing that in my weakened state, I would be abandoned according to our laws. Only he didn't count on a human carrying me to safety." The ships were getting closer. Raj quickly struck their makeshift camp and began moving deeper into the forest, where the thick canopy would provide more cover. "Why doesn't he just kill you openly?" Raj asked as they moved. "Claim the throne by right of strength." "Because the people love me more than they love him. They tolerate him as my brother, but they would not accept him as emperor if I were to die by his hand. If I die in exile alone and weak, it becomes a cautionary tale. If I die fighting him, I become a martyr." They spent the day playing a deadly game of cat and mouse with the search teams. Twice, soldiers passed within meters of their hiding spots. Thalara remained perfectly still during these moments, though Raj could see the effort it cost her. During one particularly close call, a Vazari soldier actually stepped on the edge of their concealment, a natural depression in the ground covered by hanging vines. Raj held his breath as the warrior's boot pressed down just inches from Thalara's head. After what felt like an eternity, the soldier moved on. He would have killed you too, Thalara whispered once they were clear. For helping me. Probably. You could have made noise, revealed our position, bought your freedom by betraying me. Raj looked at her in the dim light filtering through the leaves. The thought never crossed my mind. That night, as they sheltered in a cave system that Thalara remembered from her childhood explorations of Centauri 9, she asked him about his life. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing stories that seemed impossibly ordinary given their circumstances. Raj told her about his work as a military medic, the satisfaction of saving lives, the frustration of losing patients, despite his best efforts. He described Earth with its blue oceans and single moon, the diversity of its cultures and peoples. In return, Thalara spoke of growing up in the Vaisari Imperial Palace, the pressure of being heir to an empire, the loneliness of always having to be the strongest. She described their homeworld with its crystal cities and floating gardens, the beauty and brutality that defined her people. I used to think strength was everything, she admitted. In our society, weakness in any form is despised. We are taught from birth that only the strong deserve to rule, to live, to matter. But these past few days, she fell silent, gazing at the cave ceiling where bioluminescent organisms created patterns like alien constellations. What? Raj prompted gently. You are not strong by Vazari standards. You cannot fight 10 warriors at once or crush stone with your bare hands, yet you carry me through deadly terrain without complaint. You risk your life for someone who should be your enemy. Perhaps we have been wrong about what constitutes strength. The fourth day brought them to the edge of what the geological surveys called the Burning Flats, a region where underground thermal activity had created a landscape of hot springs, geysers, and pools of liquid sulfur. The air itself seemed to shimmer with heat, and the smell of sulfur was overwhelming. Thalara was having a bad day. Infection had set in despite Raj's best efforts, and fever made her delirious at times. He had used the last of his antibiotics the night before, and he knew that without proper medical facilities, he would lose her soon. Leave me, she mumbled as he fashioned a mask to protect her from the sulfur fumes. I command you. You're not my princess, Raj replied, checking the heat shields he'd rigged to protect the stretcher's underside. I don't take orders from you. Why? She asked, grabbing his hand with surprising strength. Why won't you abandon me like any sensible person would? Raj was quiet for a moment, adjusting the cooling strips on her forehead. Because someone has to prove that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. Someone has to show that compassion isn't weakness, it's the highest form of strength. They were halfway across the burning flats when the geysers around them began to erupt in sequence. Steam and boiling water shot skyward in towering columns, creating a natural barrier that would hide them from the search parties, but also trap them in a maze of scalding death. Raj studied the pattern of eruptions, timing them with the methodical precision that had made him an excellent field medic. There was a rhythm to it, a predictable sequence that could be exploited. Hold on, he told Thalara and began running. They dashed between the geysers in a desperate sprint, Raj following windows of opportunity that lasted only seconds. Steam seared their skin, and the heat was unbearable, but they made it through. On the other side, they found an unexpected sight. A Vazari patrol ship landed and apparently abandoned. Raj approached cautiously, but Thalara identified the markings. That's Captain Lorath's ship. He was loyal to me. They found Lorath and his squad inside, dead for some time. It looked like they had been executed, shot in the back by their own weapons. A datapad nearby told the story Lorath had discovered Vizoth's conspiracy and was flying to warn Thalara when his own men bought by the prince turned on him. The ship's engines were still functional. Raj had never flown a Vazari craft, but the interface was intuitive enough. As he powered up the systems, Thalara made a discovery that changed everything. My brother's primary fleet is stationed at the old mining complex, she said, reading from Lorath's tactical display. If we can reach the research station and access their communications array, I can contact the loyal houses. Is that wise? Your brother has already killed his own people. The noble houses don't know the extent of his treachery. Many believe I died in the attack, my brother's version of events. If I can prove to them that he orchestrated it, all they will rally to my cause. The flight to the research station took only an hour, but it felt like the longest of Raj's life. The Vazari ship's medical bay was more advanced than anything he'd used before, and he finally had access to the drugs and equipment needed to properly treat Thalara's injuries. As the automated systems worked to repair damage from the infection and blood loss, Thalara's strength slowly returned. By the time they landed at the abandoned research facility, she was able to walk with assistance. The station had been evacuated during the initial peace conference, its skeleton crew sent to the summit as part of the event's security detail. Now it stood empty, its communications array waiting to reconnect them with the wider galaxy. While Raj worked to establish communication with the loyal houses, Thalara prepared for what she knew would come next. "My brother will not let this stand," she said, checking the station's defensive systems. "Even if I expose his treachery, he will try to silence us both." "Then we'd better make sure your message gets out before he arrives." They transmitted to 9 different noble houses simultaneously, each message containing the evidence of Vizoth's conspiracy, along with Thalara's declaration of her survival. The responses came back quickly: shock, outrage, and promises of support. But even as the messages went out, thermal sensors detected incoming ships. "He's coming," Thalara said. 6 ships, his entire personal squadron. Raj activated the station's defensive shields and automated weapons systems. They wouldn't hold for long against determined assault, but they might buy enough time. "There's something else," Thalara said quietly. "Something I need to tell you. Now might not be the best time. That lieutenant who saved you, Caliph, I said he was my cousin, but that wasn't entirely true." She met his eyes, violet orbs reflecting the warning lights now flashing throughout the station. "He was my father." The revelation staggered Raj. "Your father? Not my biological father, that honor belonged to the Emperor, but Caliph raised me from birth. When he was executed for showing mercy to a human child, I swore I would never make his mistake. I would be strong. I would never show weakness." She touched his hand. "You have made me understand that his mercy was not a mistake at all." The first energy blast struck the station's shields, causing the entire structure to shudder. "Can you contact any of those loyal houses?" Raj asked, checking the weapon systems. "Already done. Admiral Rex is 3 hours out with a full battle group. We just need to survive until—" The shields failed. In the chaotic battle that followed, Raj found himself fighting alongside Vazari warriors who had remained loyal to their princess. They held the station's central complex, while waves of Vizoth's soldiers attempted to breach their defenses. Raj used his medical skills in ways he'd never imagined, treating wounded allies while fighting off attackers. Thalara, despite her recent injuries, fought with a grace and ferocity that spoke to generations of warrior breeding. The tide turned when reinforcements arrived. But Vizoth himself had landed with the first assault wave, and now he stood in the station's main command center, facing his sister across a room strewn with bodies. Sister Vizoth said, his elaborate armor scarred but intact, "I had hoped you would die with dignity in the wilderness. Instead, you forced me to kill you with my own hands." "You already tried once," Thalara replied, raising her weapon. "Apparently you failed at that too." They fought among the sparking consoles and emergency lighting, a brutal sibling rivalry played out with deadly weapons. Vizoth was the stronger fighter. His lifetime of dedicated warfare had given him advantages that Thalara's more balanced education had not. But he had not counted on Raj. As Vizoth moved for the killing blow, Raj tackled him from behind. They crashed into a bank of computers, sparks flying as Vizoth threw him off with contemptuous ease. "The human pet?" Vizoth sneered. "I should have known you'd find some weakness to exploit, sister. Trusting an inferior species, how pathetic." "That inferior species sacrificed everything to save me," Thalara said, helping Raj to his feet, "while my own brother tried to murder me for power." Zoth raised his weapon to fire at them both, but the sound of approaching ships made him pause. Admiral Rex's voice echoed through the station's public address system. Prince Vizoth, you are surrounded. Surrender now, and you will be granted a warrior's trial. Continue resistance, and you will be exterminated like the traitor you are. For a moment, Vizoth's face showed something almost like regret. Then his expression hardened. Rather than surrender, he triggered a grenade, preferring to die in battle than live with the shame of capture. The explosion tore through the command center, but Raj managed to pull Thalara to cover behind a reinforced wall. When the smoke cleared, they found Vizoth's body among the wreckage. He had received the warrior's death he craved, even if his honor was forever stained by betrayal. Admiral Rex found them there, Thalara cradling Raj's head in her lap. The explosion had caught him in the blast, and while not fatal, his injuries were severe. My princess, the admiral said, kneeling before her, the loyal houses await your word. What are your orders regarding the succession? Thalara looked down at Raj, then back at her people. First, save this man. He has shown me more about true strength than anyone in our empire. Then prepare the coronation ceremony. It's time for the Vazari Empire to learn a new definition of power. Under Thalara's rule, the strength protocol was not abolished. That would have been too great a shock to Vazari society. Instead, it was reinterpreted. Strength now meant the ability to lift others up, not cast them down. Weakness was redefined as the inability to help those in need. The changes were not universally accepted. Some traditionalist houses rebelled, leading to a brief but devastating civil war. But Thalara had powerful allies, now not just among her own people, but among the humans as well. Dr. Raj Bennett became the first human ambassador to the Vazari Empire, though his formal title was Imperial Medical Advisor. In practice, he served as Thalara's closest counselor and confidant, helping her navigate the complex process of transforming an entire civilization's worldview. 3 years after the events on Centauri. 9. Raj stood on the balcony of the Imperial Palace, looking out over the crystal spires of the Vazari capital. The city sparkled in the light of twin suns, its beauty no longer marred by the shadows of conquest and oppression. Thalara joined him wearing simple robes rather than the ornate armor of her predecessors. The council approved the new education reforms, she reported. Starting next year, all Vazari children will learn about cooperation alongside competition, compassion alongside strength. And the humans' response. The Earth delegation is thrilled. They're calling it the dawn of a new age of peace. She paused. Though I suspect they're mostly just relieved that we've stopped trying to conquer them. Raj laughed. Can you blame them? They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city go about its daily business. In the streets below, they could see something that would have been unthinkable. Under the old regime, Vazari and human doctors working together at mobile medical stations, treating anyone who needed help, regardless of their species or status. Do you ever regret it? Thalara asked quietly. All the changes, sometimes I wonder if we've lost something essential in trying to become more human. Raj considered the question carefully. Evolution isn't about becoming something else. It's about becoming the best version of what you already are. The Vazari are still strong, stronger than ever. You're just using that strength differently now. To protect the weak. To protect everyone. A messenger arrived with reports from the outer colonies, and Thalara had to return to her duties. Raj remained on the balcony a while longer, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. That night, at a state dinner celebrating the latest peace treaty between humans and Vazari, Raj was approached by a young Vazari officer. Dr. Bennett, the officer said formally, I am Lieutenant Kalina Vrax. I believe you knew my grandfather. Raj's heart skipped. Lieutenant Kalith Vrax. Yes, sir. The princess has told me about your connection to my family. I wanted to thank you personally for honoring his memory. He saved my life when I was a child. It seemed only right to save his daughters when the opportunity arose. The princess isn't his daughter, sir. She was his adopted niece, but he raised her as his own. Raj filed away this new piece of information, another thread in the complex tapestry that connected their lives. "Your grandfather was a good man," he said simply. "He died believing that mercy was strength. It's fitting that his niece rules an empire built on that principle now." The young lieutenant smiled an expression that would have been forbidden under the old strength protocol, as it showed emotion rather than stoic power. "He would be proud," she said, "both of her and of you." Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Raj found himself walking in the palace gardens with Thalara. The plants here were a hybrid of Vazari and human species, another symbol of the cooperation between their peoples. "Kalina told you about Keleth," Thalara observed. "That you weren't his biological daughter, yes? Does it change anything?" Raj shook his head. "He raised you. You carry his values. That's what matters." They paused beside a fountain, where water danced in gravity-defying spirals, a piece of Vazari engineering art that served no practical purpose beyond beauty. "There's something else I need to tell you." Thalara said, her voice uncertain for the first time in years. "What is it?" "The nobles have been pressuring me about the succession. They want me to choose a mate, produce an heir." Raj felt something twist in his chest. "And I've been thinking about it." She turned to face him, her violet eyes bright in the garden lights. "The council would accept an alliance marriage with a human, especially given everything that's happened. It would cement the peace between our peoples." He waited, hardly daring to breathe. "Would you consider it?" she asked quietly. "Not just as a political alliance, but as more." Raj reached out and took her hands. "I carried you across deadly terrain because I couldn't bear to leave you behind. I've spent every day since trying to build a better world with you. I think it's fair to say you've already won my heart." She smiled, then bright and genuine. "Even though I'm an alien princess with a difficult past and a tendency to overthink military strategy, especially because of that." Their wedding was held 6 months later, with representatives from every major world in attendance. It was the first royal wedding in Vazari history where the groom was not a warrior, where the bride wore white instead of crimson, where the ceremony included vows of mutual protection rather than conquest. The strength protocol underwent its final revision on their wedding day. Strength, it now proclaimed, was found not in standing alone, but in choosing whom to stand with. As they exchanged vows in 3 languages, human English formal, Vazari, and the common tongue used between species, Raj reflected on how far they had come. From that first moment when he'd found her bleeding in the ruins of the peace conference, to now standing before the assembled nobility of 2 civilizations, their journey had been about more than just physical survival. They had carried each other through every trial, each supporting the other's weakness and amplifying their strength. In doing so, they had not just saved themselves, they had saved their peoples from a future of endless conflict. The reception that followed was a celebration of everything they had built together. Humans and Vazari mingled freely, sharing stories and forming friendships that would have been impossible just a few years before. As the evening wound down, Raj and Thalara stole away to the same balcony where they had stood as friends, now husband and wife. "Do you think we'll be happy?" Thalara asked, leaning against his shoulder. "I think we'll be challenged," Raj replied honestly. "Ruling an empire isn't easy. Combining 2 civilizations is even harder. There will be setbacks and failures." "That's not what I asked." He wrapped his arms around her, looking out at the city they would govern together. "Yes, I think we'll be happy. We've already proven that we're stronger together than apart. Whatever comes next, we'll face it the same way we faced everything else, side by side." In the years that followed, there were indeed challenges. Traditionalist uprisings, economic crises, first contact with new alien species. But each trial only reinforced the lesson they had learned on that deadly journey across Centauri 9. True strength came not from abandoning the weak, but from lifting them up. The Vazari Empire became the Vazari Human Alliance, and then simply the Alliance as more species joined. The strength protocol evolved into the mutual protection principle, a philosophy that spread throughout known space and fundamentally changed how civilizations interacted with each other. Raj continued his work as a doctor, establishing medical schools that trained healers from every species. Thalara proved to be a wise and compassionate ruler, even as she maintained the Vazari tradition of personal combat prowess. Their children, when they came, were raised with the best of both cultures, taught to be strong in body and spirit, but also to use that strength in service of others. Looking back, historians would mark that peace conference on Centauri 9 as the beginning of a new age. But for Raj and Thalara, it was simply the moment their lives truly began. The moment when a human doctor chose to carry a wounded alien princess to safety, and in doing so, carried both their peoples toward a better future. The strength to protect the weak had indeed proven to be the highest form of power.